I've been noticing a lot more talk lately about how worthless forms are in traditional martial arts when it comes to fighting. And a lot of that talk comes from people who are not in traditional martial arts. But I have to say, they make some good points. Biggest point is forms are not fighting. You can't argue with that. There are so many different variables you can't imagine in a real altercation if you haven't been there. And to think that forms are fighting is fooling yourself. But on the other side of the coin, even though in the traditional arts that I do, the majority of them don't include forms, I can understand why they may be including them. And it might be different than what other people might think. So a good example would be to compare it to, say, firearms training. Many of us who train in firearms do what's called dry fire manipulations. This is where we'll do repetitions of a specific skill or movement with a firearm that has no ammunition, such as shooting fundamentals, magazine changes, clearing malfunctions, and the list goes on and on. And when we first learn these dry fire manipulations, many times it's step by step and by the numbers, similarly like how forms are learned in traditional martial arts. Now, we can all agree that just by doing dry fire manipulations is not a real fight, but they do help us build attributes or specific skills necessary during a real altercation. This is the same reason forms are used in traditional martial arts. If all you do are forms, you will suck in a real fight. If all you do are dry fire manipulations, you will suck in a real fight. Thankfully, that's not all people do who train in traditional martial arts. Also, with dry fire manipulation drills or forms, you can always amp it up to increase the intensity or the realism of the practice. We could even say it's similar to going to the range. You step up to the line and pew pew pew! Yeah, now you're firing your weapon, but it's still not a real fight. Adrenaline dump hasn't hit you, pulse rate and respirations are normal, targets may not be moving, no one's screaming at your face trying to rip your head off, no one's tussling you around while you're trying to get a round off, and no one's shooting back at you. With that said, we still go to the range because it develops specific skills in stance, grip, trigger control, sight alignment, amongst other things that are difficult to initially learn in a high threat situation. So to me, this is very much like forms in traditional martial arts. By practicing traditional martial arts forms, a person is learning specific attributes and skills such as balance, movement, transitioning from various strikes and kicks, as well as getting in the repetitions that are necessary to make those skills less of a conscious thought, and thereby having a higher probability of being effective in an altercation. I see traditional martial arts forms as any other drill. No more, no less. Understand what you're trying to accomplish with whatever drill you're training, eventually amping it up as you progress to make it more and more realistic. Remember, you can't learn effectively or efficiently by repetition by inserting yourself into a real fight, whether that's hand-to-hand or weapons-based, because if you don't do it right the first time, you may never get a chance to try it again. Natural talent will only take you so far. It's the repetition that'll take you higher no matter where you're starting from. So whatever you're training, train hard, train smart, train safe. Take it easy.